In 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, it's Carlita, and welcome back to another episode of Carlita Unplugged, my podcast where I read to you my poems and I go over the reasoning behind them and the different emotions that I was feeling. And in this series, we're going to go over and uncover a lot of emotions because, like I said before,
I am an emotional creature.
and I know somebody out there can relate. It's just difficult for me to not let everything get to me emotionally. But, here we are. So today will be the final episode in what I'm calling the Patrick Trilogy. We'll be reading the final poem so we can finally put this whole Patrick situation to rest. And then we can move on to some other poems that I have, and we could get into some deeper conversations and some deeper topics. So without further ado, let's get into the poem. So the title of this one is called Heartbreaker. In the words of the one bleeding out, may you have more to love than love can give. 1,000 souls, but just one, to obtain your gain. To fix your pride you hide, eternally lost in your own sanity. Your heart deprived by your mind so thoughtless of your heart, to beat so steady, yet lay so still. Love is just a word, showing no reference to the world. You inhale love to exhale pain. Love is the drug that you need to survive. If you don't check into rehab, there will be no love if you are not alive. That's it, guys. We did it. It's the final poem. The final one. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. And, let's get into the conversation. So, have you ever had an ex that's done you bad, but yet you feel bad for them, like they've done you wrong, and you find yourself feeling bad for them, knowing you were the one that was wounded, but they might have more damage done. Like they might have more damage to them than you do. That's the type of person I am. It's like no matter what, the scenario, the situation, no matter how I've been done wrong or how I was treated, I always find myself taking pity on the ones who've done me wrong. Always. I don't know why. And maybe it's because I can see the damaged soul that they carry, because you really think about it, they have to bear that. And if you're like me and you realize that you're always feeling bad for someone else, regardless of your feelings, especially if they've done you wrong, that is a very powerful trait to have. And no, you're not stupid for feeling bad for someone who fucked you over, because not everybody was born bad, right? Sometimes, you just get fucked over, and it's not like they started out the gate that way. Sometimes bad people are just good people going through a bad point in their life, right? And it's something has happened to them in some form of way to where it fucked them up, and they can't control their anger, or they can't control their actions, or they're at a point in their life where that's not their priority. And you don't have to deal with it and put up with it, but you have to look at, regardless of how a person is, they're human as well. And we all have different sides to us. So sometimes they're just at a rough point in their life, and they don't know how to get out of it. And they have to find their way to navigate. And sometimes people just turn out to be exactly who you thought they weren't. You can think that they're one type of way and that they're so great and so wonderful. You can have this ideology of them. And you have the ideology of what they aren't. Oh, they're loyal, they're caring, they're respectful. Sometimes they turn out to be exactly who you thought they weren't. All the signs are there, and all the traits and characteristics are there. Maybe you didn't want to see it. And it's shitty, it sucks that these things happen to us when we get into love, because love is something that I feel like everybody should enjoy. And things like this do happen when love explodes and it's not matched up, or maybe it's not the right type of love for you or the other person at the time. But what do? What can we do? We deal with it and we move on. Sometimes you gotta put on your favorite sad song and just cry that shit out. Just allow yourself to feel the emotions, right? Because if you don't, and if you ignore them, it's kind of like a pressure cooker where eventually you build up so much pressure with no outlet. It's gonna explode, and it's not good, because when it explodes and that's you who have to deal with that, then you turn into the bad person, and you might hurt someone because you're a good person at a bad point in your life. And we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to avoid all toxic behaviors, toxic traits, try to purge them, right? And it's good to feel those emotions that we feel, because without doing that, it becomes an issue. You have to allow yourself to acknowledge it. When you're going through something, when you get heartbroken, acknowledge the fact that you're sad, acknowledge the fact that you're angry. And it works in mental aspect of it too, because we get our hearts broken and we feel like we might be depressed, but we don't want to acknowledge it. It's okay to say, I got my heart broken and I'm feeling depressed. Because once we acknowledge what we are feeling, then we recognize it and we can find a solution to combat that. Because if you leave it there to be ignored, it'll grow. It's like a weed in the grass. It will grow, and eventually it'll get rooted so deep to where you're gonna have to do some serious damage. You're gonna have to go through some serious damage just to uproot it. It's better to recognize it initially and be okay with the fact that you feel the way that you feel because of things like that. But as long as you work toward getting better and eliminating those things, that's all that matters in the end, honestly. It truly is. And honestly, it's normal. Everybody deals with it. As long as you don't let the pain afflicted by someone in your past to affect your future. Don't hold on to anger and let it create who you are today, because holding grudges is very toxic and it's a waste of energy. And honestly, we all see how it affects people. I know that we can probably think of one person that we know right now who is just full of anger and negativity. When they come inside the room, all the energy just drains. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to hang out with them. And you don't want to bring it up because they've got so much anger and rage bubbling up inside them that they might just explode on you because you mentioned it. And you don't want to turn into that person. You don't want to be the person who people don't want to be around, who never gets invited to parties, and who doesn't really have any true friends. I mean, if I held a grudge against every person who did me wrong, I'd look and act like a crackhead with roid rage. I mean, honestly, I'd look terrible because the stress and the toxicity of staying angry at somebody would deteriorate my health over time. And I'd just be full of rage, you know? Nobody wants to be around a crackhead on steroids. I've never seen one. It's probably a sight to see, but I know that people wouldn't want to be around me if I was like that. That's why every time I get into a scenario where someone fucks me over, I'm just like, I let that shit go. I get upset, I get angry, and yes, I acknowledge the fact that I get upset, angry, even depressed sometimes. And I process my feelings, my emotions. I write some poems, and then I let it out. And when I write my poems, when I let it out, it's me not holding it back and not holding it in. And I feel lighter after I write a poem. I can be going through some crazy shit. I write a poem, I feel so much lighter. Just to be able to put it out there in the open. And I'm not harboring it in, you know? So, and you guys shouldn't be doing it either. You know, 2021 is the year of reaching your goals and getting to the bag. So, in all honesty, fuck that ex. Go fuck who's next. Shit, it's just sex. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there. It was lame, but I did. Seriously though, don't become that person. Don't allow yourself to become that guy, you know? It's not anything that's going to be beneficial to anybody around you. And focus on something better, right? Be better. You want to be better, you know? So I want you guys to like take a second and think of an ex who did you wrong. And then, I don't know, might have cheated, might have lied. You know, just think about that. Think about that person, that one ex who fucked you over bad. Now, did you get upset when you were thinking about them? Did it stir up any type of negative feelings within you? Do you think of them and you're like, fuck them, like they can go fall off a ditch and fall and hurt themselves somewhere, or they can lose all their money, you know? Do you wish ill upon them? Or do they make you feel angry when you think about them? It flares you up. And if you answered yes, then think about this. That energy that you just wasted over somebody who ain't thinking about you, and they probably out there living their best life, you could have used and applied it to something else, like positive. And this lesson doesn't just go for relationships, like romantic relationships. This can apply to every single aspect of your life. It can be a family member who's fucked you over. It can be a best friend who's fucked you over. It can be all the people at work chit-chatting and fucking not leaving you the fuck alone so you can't get anything done productively. No, I'm not venting. Maybe. It can be about anything that makes you upset, that just harbors that negative, that energy that's negative. It can be anything. And when you get upset, instead of staying mad, instead of holding on to that anger and just sitting in it because it makes you feel better at the moment, go do something productive. Like how people, when they get upset, they go for a run. That's productivity, you know? Or for me, you know, when I get upset because we just ended January, first month of 2021 is over. I've got my New Year's resolutions, and when I get upset or annoyed, I find myself going to focus on my New Year's resolutions. Instead of staying angry, I'll realize, oh man, I'm upset. I'm gonna go do something positive. I'm gonna go do something that I said I was gonna do this year, and I'm gonna stick to it. So I might get upset and go roller skating, or I might get upset and I might draw, or I might get upset and I just might write a poem. You never know. Think about your New Year's resolutions, and if you can use that, and when you get angry, combat the two, combine the two actually, and see if you can propel yourself further in reaching your goal. That's ultimately the end. We want to get rid of all the toxic and all the bad, and we want to switch that over. We want to make something better because we want to learn from our lessons. There's no point of going through some bullshit and learning nothing from it, because then you're going to find yourself in the same situation again, right? So I challenge you to evaluate how you spend your energy when you are upset. And that doesn't have to be directly in the moment. It can be afterward, because sometimes we don't realize what we do until it's done. So you can get upset and get really go off the deep end. And you go back and you think about it, and you can be like, wow, so that's what I do when I get mad. That's what I do when I have the negative energy in me. And you have to think, do you channel it towards something positive and productive? Like, are you like me that's trying to fix that and work on that? Or are you a salty bitch? And if you are a salty bitch, do you want to stay a salty bitch? I don't want to be around salty bitches. Not calling you a salty bitch, but you a salty bitch. Honestly though, think about that. Harness it. You have everything to succeed within you. You are in control of your own emotions. You can allow things and people to influence your emotions, but at the end of the day, it's what you allow is how you react. If I was to allow everybody who says some fucked up shit to me to control my emotions, like I said, I'd be around here like ain't nobody's business. I'd be like the Tasmanian devil, just mad and breaking shit, But I can't do that. For one, I got a job. And for two, I'm trying to keep the bills paid. So I control it. And I think about how I can continue to progress myself in a positive manner to get to my goals at the end of the day. That's all I have for this week's episode. Until next time, I'm Carlita, and thank you for tuning in.